The Israeli Prime Minister's office has announced that the Israeli military has presented a plan to the war cabinet to evacuate civilians in the Gaza Strip, along with an operational plan. The announcement comes as Israel threatens a full-scale invasion of Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city, which has so far been untouched by the Israeli ground troops. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had earlier said that the military operation into Gaza's Rafah would put Israel within weeks of total victory over Hamas. And as per the reports, negotiations for a ceasefire in Gaza have resumed in Doha. But Netanyahu said that any deal would not prevent the Rafah offensive. The Israeli Prime Minister also said, and I'm quoting him, "If we have a ceasefire deal, it will be delayed somewhat, but it will happen." He further says, if we do not have a deal, we'll do it anyway. It has to be done because total victory is our goal, and total victory is within reach, not months away, weeks away, once we begin the operation. On the other hand, 1.4 million Palestinians are sheltering in tent cities in Rafah. The British Red Cross has even pointed out that Rafah is now so overcrowded that displaced people are struggling to find enough space to put up a basic tent. Most people living there have been displaced several times. Now there is a lack of food, drinking water, sanitation and healthcare. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres also commented upon how the UN Security Council had failed to respond adequately to the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza. Speaking at the opening of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, Guterres said that the UN Security Council often found itself deadlocked and unable to act on the most significant peace and security issues of the times.
Tens of thousands of civilians, including women and children, have been killed in Gaza. Humanitarian aid is still completely insufficient. Rafah is the core of the humanitarian aid operation, and UNRWA is the backbone of that effort. An all-out Israeli offensive on the city would not only be terrifying for more than 1 million Palestinian civilians sheltering there, it would put the final nail in the coffin of our aid programs. I repeat my call for a humanitarian ceasefire and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages.
Also, talks about release of hostages are ongoing on both sides. An Israeli team was in Paris last week to discuss a deal on a fresh ceasefire and the release of hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. International pressure for a ceasefire has mounted in recent weeks. According to Gaza officials, the death toll from Israel's military offensive on the Palestinian territory is nearing 30,000 mark, mostly women and children. Israel has vowed to destroy Hamas, which controls Gaza, in response to its October attack that resulted in the deaths of over 1,100 people, mostly civilians.